the seminar. And so I will present a work which is a joint work with in Barcerosi and Farad Zaitouni. And so we talk about directed polymers on infinite graph. So please don't hesitate to ask me questions, and I'll be happy to answer. So the model is the following. We give ourselves infinite graph. So V is a vertex set and E is a set of edges. And we will consider infinite graphs. So the set of vertices should be infinite. We'll consider a nearest neighbor walk on the graph. And the walk itself is denoted by sk. And the measure we're defining as sk width is denoted by px, where x stands for the starting point of the random walk on the vertices. We will also give ourselves a set of random variables which are denoted by omega ix. So they are defined all over the vertices, so all over the x's in V, and they will change at each time I. So at each time the time changes, we resample all the variables all over the graph. We assume them to be centered and also to have variance 1. We make the following general assumptions on our graph. And first, we assume that the Markov chain defined by the random walk is irreducible, and also that it is locally finite in the sense that if you look at any vertex x, the number of vertices you can access to, so where you have positive probability to go, should be finite. And also we will ask for the environment omega to have exponential moment, and we take lambda of beta to be the logarithm of this exponential moment. So what graph do we have in mind? Mostly I would graphs that have a kind of disorder in them, so random graphs such as Galton-Watson trees and percolation cluster. But we will also consider more general types of graphs to try to understand different phenomena. Particularly, we'll spend some time on bias walks on Galton-Watson trees or infinite trees. The main object we will look at is a polymer model, and it's defined via a polymer measure, which is denoted by p and beta x. So there are 3 parameters. N is the time horizon of the measure. Beta is a tuning parameter, and x is the starting point of the walk. So it's defined with the density with respect to the original walk. So it's a measure on the path on random walks on the graph, and it's given via a density with respect to the original walk, and it gives a reward for walks that will visit places of the graph where the omegas are quite large. And we tune this reward by a parameter beta. So the higher the beta, the higher the reward is to go to large values of the field omega. Now, to make it a probability measure, we divide by Zn, and Zn is a function defined here, which is random in the sense that it still depends on the omegas. So it's a random function on the environment, but we average over all paths of the random walk. So this is average over the random walk S. And it depends on 2 parameters, again, the beta and the starting point of the walk. So our general goal in the polymer, the general goal is to understand how paths under this polymer measure behave. So in particular, we want to understand how if you tune the parameter beta, if for beta large enough, for example, the walk will really spend most of its time in places where the omega are take high values. And if beta is small, maybe the reward is not enough to actually change the behavior of the measure, and maybe the polymer measure will behave basically very similarly to the original ROC. So we are looking also for phase transition in beta that would separate these two kind of behaviors. In the literature, the most of the work has been is related to simple random walk on the lattice. So in all this talk, what we mean by simple random walk is that if you have a point x, vertex x, then the probability to go to any of the neighbor is the same. So probability, so basically it's 1 over the degree of x. And so if you look at the simple random walk on the lattice ZD, the standard lattice, this is the model where most of the work has been concentrated. There also have been many papers about downward pass on trees, and also on finite approximations of the lattice. When you take the graph G, which is some kind of big finite graph that approximates the lattice, but we want to take a bit of different routes, and we want to understand how the properties of the walk and of the graph will actually have will influence the properties of the polymer. So we also want to look at graphs that actually don't look like the lattice and see how they change the behavior of the polymer. So this work is actually comes from it's inspired by a work of one of the authors, Inbar Serozi, and another author, Sochen. They considered the stochastic equation. So it's the following equation. It's a SPDE, where the time evolution of the field, which depends on both time and x is a point on the graph, is given by a Laplacian term. So Laplacian corresponds to Laplacian, standard Laplacian on the graph, plus an additive term, which is a IID field. So here they look at continuous time. So you think about it as a white noise in time and IID in space, times the original, so times the solution dt. So it's called a stochastic equation with multiplicative noise, because you multiply the noise by the solution. And they look at this equation on general infinite graphs, and it's a paper which really uses physics techniques, and they general idea was to say that the presence of phase transition should be related to the spectral dimension of the graph. Now our work is much related to okay. So what was also the motivation of the work is comes from the fact that if you do MRI on the brain, you can actually observe a kind of diffusion on the network on the brain, which is well modeled by this kind of equation. So their starting point was inverse problem of saying, if we can see if we can see the behavior of a stochastic equation on the brain, what can we say about the structure of the brain? And so in their paper, they took the inverse problem, saying we have a structure of the brain, we have a graph structure, then the stochastic equation should behave like this. So we also take this inverse problem, which given a graph, what is the behavior of the stochastic equation? And in our case, the stochastic equation is actually much related to the polymer model in the following sense. So remember that if you look at the partition function Zn of x, it's defined. So this would be an equality if here you take time I, but if you just reverse time by the IID structure of the omegas, then this is an equality in distribution. And define the small Zn to be this object, then it's not easy. It's very easy to check that the stochastic heat equation, the Zn, the small Zn satisfies a kind of stochastic heat equation, which is the following one: that the time evolution of the small Zn is given by a Laplacian of Zn, plus Cn bar multiplied by the field omega tilde. So the Laplacian here is simply the Laplacian that is induced by our random walk on the graph. So Pxy, and we lose this notation, is just the probability starting from x that the first term of the walk will be at y. So this is the Laplacian we consider, and plus beta times this omega tilde. Omega tilde is defined via the original field omegas, and the Zn bar is just the average around point x of Zn. And basically, this is a discrete analog of the continuous equation. And at large time scales and space scales, you can think about this as a good approximation of Zn of x. And actually, for the lattice, there is much work that shows that this discrete equation is actually a good approximation of continuous equation of stochastic integration. Let me continue with okay, so basically what we want is to understand this field here, to be able to understand how the field how the stochastic integration behaves, but also for the directed polymer model. So let me enter a bit properties of the directed polymers, and in particular the different phases that are standard. So associated to the partition function, we have the normalized partition function, where you just divide the n by its mean. So you can compute the mean. It's just given by e to the minus n times lambda of beta, where lambda of beta was the log of the exponential moments. And, yeah. And this defines a martingale, which is positive and has mean 1. And in particular, this martingale converges almost surely to a limit when s goes to infinity. And what has been well understood for the case of the lattice, but we show that it's the same techniques apply very easily to general graphs, general infinite graphs, under our assumptions of irreducibility, is that there will be a phase, some kind of phase transition between the two following behaviors, either for all x in the graph, the limiting partition function will be positive almost surely, and this is called the weak disorder, or the limit will be 0 everywhere in the graph, and this is what we call strong disorder. And there is a parameter beta c such that weak disorder happens below beta c, and strong disorder happens above beta c. And this is very general, but the point is to understand when the beta c can be positive or not, because here beta c can be either 0 or infinite, and the game is to try to prove that either beta c is positive or 0. So there is a phase transition or there is no phase transition, depending on the structure of the work. So let me continue with another region, which will be quite convenient and interesting, is called the L2 region, which is when we ask for the work to be bounded in L2, for the partition function omega to be W to be bounded in L2. So again, we can show that there is a critical parameter beta 2, which is either 0, which can be 0 or infinite, such that below beta 2, the martingale is bounded in L2, and above beta 2, then the second moment blows up for any starting point of the work. And so the first remark is that since okay, if you ask for the martingale to be bounded in L2, in particular, you will find that the limit, the mean of the limit will be equal to the limit of the mean, and you will find that the mean is 1. So in particular, you will have that omega infinity has to be in the case where it's positive almost surely. So if you are below beta 2, you will be in the weak disorder region where omega W infinity is positive. So in particular, it shows that beta 2 is less than beta C, which was a critical parameter from before. And one of the interests of this region is that you can actually, so the condition L2 is really reduced to a condition on the walk itself. So if you look at this equation, you see that the second moment is given only by something that only depends on the walk itself. So you have here a parameter lambda 2 of beta, which is a known parameter that goes to 0 when beta goes to 0. And here you have the number of intersection of two independent random walks. So this object is only deals with the random walk itself, and there is no structure of the omegas, the random environment disappears in this condition. So let me just sum up what we've seen is that you have these three regions. The first one is the L2 region, which is a sub-region of weak disorder, where the martingale is bound in L2. You have the weak disorder where the limit is positive almost surely, and you have the strong disorder where the limit is 0. And what has been shown by Kometsu Yoshida is the following property that happens in the whole weak disorder region, is that the measure almost surely on the environment converges weakly to a limiting measure, which is absolutely continuous with respect to the original measure. So basically, in this phase, the limiting polymer measure will behave somewhat similarly to the original measure. But above the critical beta 2, beta C, what you will have is that there is always a kind of path localization property, no matter the original, the law of the original walk, in the sense that two independent walk under the polymer measure will basically meet infinitely many times. So this is the general idea. So you can have, so what I want to say is that you can have, so that this beta C really should characterize the two limits we were describing in the beginning, where one when the environment has a little to no influence, and one where the environment has a big influence on the law of the polymer walk. So let me give another example that we prove for. So let me just come back on this. These are results that have been proved for the lattice, but actually the proof apply very well also to our general case. Another thing that comes from an argument for Bolthausen that also applies quite well to our general setting is that if you look at the Sn, absolute value of Sn, which should be the distance from Sn to the general point, where the distance is simply the graph distance, then if you assume a kind of central limit theorem under your walk, in the sense that you take an an that goes to infinity, which just satisfies this simple condition, and if you divide the absolute value of Sn, it converges in law to a limit random variable z that does not depend on the initial point of your walk. Then in the whole L2 region, what you can show is that under the polymer measure, you again have this central limit theorem appearing, in the sense that here, if you divide the Sn by an again, and you test it against a certain function under the polymer measure, it will converge to the mean of z, so this limiting law here, over a test function. So, and this happens in probability over the environment of the random environment omegas. So this gives also another interest of the weak disorder, which is that if you have some kind of if you know a bit the size of the variation of Sn, if it's a size an, then under the initial measure, then it will stay the same, at least in the L2 region, under the polymer measure. And we can also generalize a proof of Kometz and Yoshida, saying that this also works in the whole weak disorder region. So but we have to assume a bit more. For example, we have to assume that the Wn stays uniformly integrable in the whole weak disorder region. And we also have to assume some kind of almost sure central limit theorem on the walk. And then you can find again this region. So uniform integrability of Wn in the weak disorder region is something that is always happening for the lattice, but in our case, we give some general conditions where it can also happen for general graphs. Particularly if the graph satisfies a Liouville property, then Wn stays uniform integrable in the whole weak disorder region. So okay, and so to come back to this general picture, let me tell you what we know for the lattice. So for the lattice, for simple random walk and ZD, then it is well known that that there is no weak disorder region when dimension is 1 and 2. So there is no phase transition in dimension 1 and 2 for the behavior of the polymer. But when d is bigger than 3, then there is a phase transition in the sense that beta c is positive. And also the L2 region and the weak disorder region are not the same because there is a gap between them. Follows from the work that is here. And so the general question that can be asked is there a relation between existence of a phase transition and recurrence or transience of the walk? So because here we see that here is a case where the walk is recurrent for simple random walk on the lattice, and here is a case where it's transient. So we have this general question in mind, and we'll try to answer it in some sense. So let me turn to our results that really go now to different types of behaviors of the walk. The first result that goes positively in the direction we just mentioned is that if SK is positive recurrence, then there is no phase transition. So this is a result that we prove, and I will come back a bit later on that to discuss it, because there are seen in the positive recurrent case, there are some other features that can happen or not depending on the graph. But at least in terms of phase transition in beta C, there is none when it's positive recurrent. The other thing is that if you ask to have a reversible measure, so reversible meaning that you have this property over the walk on the graph, then if you also ask the measure to be bounded away from 0 and the walk to be recurrent, then you will have no L2 region. In particular, if you look at pi, which is a simple random walk, then the reversible measure is simply the degree of a vertex. And since we are looking at an irreducible graph, it will be always bigger than 1. So so this condition here will be always satisfied. So in particular, all recurrent simple random walk have no L2 region. Now, the question is it possible to have an L2 region for a recurrent graph? The answer is yes, and let me describe what is the idea behind this example where you have a recurrent graph that has an L2 region. So remember that the second moment of the partition function is simply given by the exponential e to the power of some constant time the number of intersection of two independent random walk. So the idea is to construct an example where the walk is still recurrent, but two walks don't meet too many times. Our idea was the following. If you take xk to be a simple random walk on Z2, and you take the following walk on the following walk, which is a product of two walks. The first walk would be xk, the second walk would be tk, and tk can depend on xk. So sk will be our walk, and we consider a binary tree. And tk will be a walk on this binary tree. So when tk is at a vertex like this on the binary tree, what you look is at the value of xk plus 1. If xk plus 1 is 0, is non-zero, then you make tk go down on one of his two children with probability 1/2. And when xk is 0, xk plus 1 is 0, then you bring your tk back up until the tree. So each time xk it has 0, the tk jumps back to the tree, and in particular the whole walk sk will be recurrent because we know that xk is simple random walk on GD, so it goes back to the root to the origin infinitely many times, so sk will be recurrent. But if you look at the number of so if you look now at the number of intersection of two walks, basically if you take the two walks and you look starting from the origin, they will maybe stay together for a bit of time, but at some point they will split. So one of the walk will go down and the other walk will go to another place. And this follows just a geometric random variable, and it has always a finite mean. And so the number of intersections that you will get, basically, if you look at the average number, will be bounded by a constant, which is the number of times they will meet before splitting, times the number of returns for both walks at the origin. Because for two walks to meet, they have to be at the origin at the same time. Otherwise, they will have some kind of distance between them, which avoids them from meeting. So we'll get that it will be bounded by the probability that two independent walk, xk and xk prime, spend at the origin together at the same time. But this is simply the probability of xk to be at 0 squared, and it's well known that this behaves like 1 over k squared. So this overall will be finite uniformly over the starting points, and via a standard lemma which is called the Kashminsky lemma, you can actually it actually implies that this exponential term will also be finite. So this is a bit the idea behind this example, which is both recurrent, but two walks will not meet a lot. Okay. So now let me turn to results that we have when the walk is transient. So we now introduce the green function, which is the average number of time you spend at a vertex y started at a vertex x. Not the average, but the mean, the expected number of time that you spend at the y. And if you suppose that sk is now transient, and reversible with a measure that is now bounded from above. Then under this, this assumption on the green function, then you will show that then that the beta 2 is positive. So there is an L2 region. In particular, that there will be a phase transition because beta c will be positive as well. So again, if you take a simple random walk, then this condition, you can forget about the pi here, and the condition only becomes the condition on the green function. So what you ask is the green function to be uniformly bounded. So we know that transience is when the green function is bounded at a point, but now we ask for it to be a bit stronger than just transient. We ask for the whole green function to be bounded. And in this case, it is not hard to, okay. So the question is, what happens if it is not the case? So if the green function is not bounded, can you have a transient graph where beta 2 is 0? And in particular, there is no L2 region. So the simple idea is the following. If you take how to make the green function blow up, you can simply assume, for example, that in your graph, you have a large one-dimensional pipe. So what do I mean by one-dimensional pipe? You take this path of length L between two vertices V and W. And this is called the one-dimensional pipe if on this path between V and W, all vertices here have only two neighbors, exactly two neighbors. And if you actually start your walk at a point in the middle of a very large pipe, the green function will look more and more like the green function of a one-dimensional walk, which goes to infinity when you like this dimension of the pipe go to, this length of the pipe go to infinity. So, so we get the following result, which is that if Sk is a simple random walk, and the graph, and you can find arbitrary large one-dimensional pipes in the graph, then there will be no L2 region. In particular, we have the following interesting example where for the percolation cluster in high dimension. So consider the lattice ZD, and you close each edge independently of the lattice with the probability 1 minus p. So by closing, I mean that we remove the edge with probability 1 minus p independently for every edge. So it is well known that when d is bigger than 2, there is a critical parameter pc, such that for p strictly bigger than pc, there exists almost surely a unique connected infinite component of the percolation cluster. And what we showed is that if you take the simple random walk on this percolation cluster, then in dimension bigger than 3, then it is transient. This is a well-known result. And it will satisfy that there is no L2 region. And the reason is because in this percolation cluster, you can find, you can show that you can find large, arbitrary large one-dimensional pipes. And it is in contrast with the case of the lattice where beta 2 is positive. And in particular, what we don't know and we don't know how to prove is that if or not there is whether or not there is a phase transition for the critical percolation, because the simple argument is to say that beta 2 is positive, so beta c is positive. But now we don't know that beta 2 is positive. And the other techniques that we know how to prove that beta c is positive without using beta 2, we didn't manage to, or they don't seem to apply to this case. So it's still an open question for us. Let me now turn a bit to results that we can obtain under heat canal estimates. And we'll see that it relates to the spectral dimension of the graph, which was what was already that Soren and Lindbach already figured out in their stochastic heat equation example. So we say that S will satisfy a heat kernel upper bound when you have control over the heat, the Pn of xi. So what is Pn of xi? It's simply the probability starting from x that Sn is at y, is exactly at y. And what you ask is for upper bound on this probability, which involves a few parameters. First, you have here this d, and here you have this d of omega, which we assume to be bigger than 1 all the time, and you have a certain measure mu. And we call this condition HK. So we also introduce the uniform condition if the infimum of the measure is positive, and this bound is uniform for all xy. So the first bound, the constant here may depend on x, so it's only a bound from fixed x, and we call the uniform heat canal bound when it's uniform all over the graph. So when dW is 2, it's the standard heat canal estimates, Gaussian heat canal estimates, where here you take a square in the distance, and here you will get 1 here. And more generally, this kind of estimates where dW can be larger than 2 can happen for fractal graphs. And in particular, in this literature, the dW corresponds to the work dimension of the fractal, and df corresponds. So df is defined as d times dw divided by 2, where d was this parameter here. Is a fractal dimension. So there is a relation between these three parameters, df, dw, and d. And d is so this is a general notation. It stands for the spectral dimension of the work. So basically, d is okay. If you look at Pn of xx, you can think as it as the parameter such that this decays like n to the power of minus d over 2. Particular, basically when d is strictly larger than 2, you are dealing with transient graphs, and when d is strictly less than 2, you are dealing with recurrent graphs. This is a general idea. Okay. And so what can we prove when we assume this kind of bounds? So we have this following theorem. If the measure mu that appeared before in this heat kernel is bounded from below, and you ask for the volume of the sphere, so here the sphere of a distance r to the point x, if the volume of the sphere corresponds to the fractal dimension here, df, then if you have the heat kernel estimate, the 1-point heat kernel estimate with a dimension strictly less than 2, you will find out that there is no phase transition. So that strong disorder always hold. So basically, the recurrent case, or at least the case where the spectral dimension is strictly less than 2, determines that there is no phase transition. But if you ask for a uniform heat canal bound, and you have the dimension strictly bigger than 2, with also an assumption on mu, then there is beta 2 positive. So there will be a phase transition. So we find that this spectral dimension is really a tuning parameter between existence or not the spectral dimension when you ask for heat canal bounds, at least uniform heat canal bounds. Now, there is actually a general result, which the argument you can find in a book on polymers of Francisco Metz is the following one. If you take the simple random walk, So the argument was first in the book is given for the lattice, but the proof actually applies very well to this following context, where Sk is a simple random walk with a uniform bounded degree, and you ask for the volume of the ball to be at most quadratic, then beta c is 0. So this is quite a strong statement because it's very general. You only ask for a property of the volume of the graph. You don't ask anything special about the random walk, except for being a simple random walk. And then under this criteria, you can have beta. You show that beta c is 0. So there is no heat kernel upper bound. But and you can also do it for non-simple random walk when you have some kind of Carnot-Varapolus bound. This also works. But this theorem is not. This is not complete in the sense that we can actually find a family of fractals, which are the Sierpinski gaskets, that have actually a volume of the fractal dimension going to infinity. So they will have a volume growth which is arbitrarily large, but still the dimension of the spectral dimension will be strictly less than 2. So this is a case which will not be covered by the first point, because we always hide the volume to be smaller than quadratic. And so what do I mean just by this fractal is that you consider, so what is a Sierpinski gasket? You take a triangle and then you remove the triangle, the big triangle, and then in all these small triangles you remove again the triangle in the middle, and you can create a fractal, and you can also consider it as an infinite graph. And if you take this in higher dimension, not only in 2 dimension, this is the way you can find a volume that is going to infinity, while still the spectral dimension will stay strictly less than 2. Another point is that, okay, on the second point, you are asking here for uniform heat kernel bounds in the case of this strictly bigger than 2. And this cannot be relaxed to simply heat kernel bound, because we know that for the simple random walk on the percolation cluster, you have heat kernel bonds which are not uniform, but still we just showed that beta 2 is equal to 0 in this case. So you can have heat kernel bonds, not uniform one, but still beta 2 is 0. So so yeah, for point 2, heat kernel bond cannot be enough. Okay, so let me now introduce another region of the polymer, which is called the very strong disorder region, where instead of just asking Wn to go to 0, we ask for Wn to go to 0 exponentially fast. So this is the condition. Here you have expectation of the log, but what you can show is that this quantity, which quantity does not depend on x, and there is a phase transition between very strong. Okay, so we say that very strong disorder holds when this condition holds, and so very strong disorder holds is when b is taken large enough, larger than beta c, and this value here will be 0 when you are below this beta c bar. In fact, you can show that you can forget about the expectation here, and the limit will be the same. So in particular, if you have very strong disorder, then this lim sup will be negative. So Wn will converge exponentially fast to 0. So in particular, it will converge to 0. And so when you have very strong disorder, you will always have a strong disorder. So you have this property between the critical values that beta c is less than beta c bar. So beta c is for the strong disorder, and beta c bar for a very strong disorder. Now, what is the interest of this region is that in this very strong disorder region, you can prove stronger types of localization properties. In particular, what can be so the proof comes from Komeshi and Yoshida, but it can also apply to a general framework without much change. Actually, no change. Is that very strong disorder holds if and only if this happens, that if you take the Cesaro limit, so here a Cesaro limit of the supremum of the probability to go from a point x to y in k steps, then this will be bounded by a constant, below by a constant. Now, just to compare, if you take the simple random walk on the lattice, this will be of order 1 over k to the power of d over 2. So there is no chance that this should happen for a simple random walk on the lattice, no matter the dimension, because there is a spreading of the mass. Now, what this means is that the mass will concentrate in some place of the environment, so there is a kind of localization property. And for the lattice, for simple random walk lattice, you can push this description and get a much stronger, a much brighter picture by the work of Bates and Chatterjee, where they prove that actually the mass of the polymer measure becomes really isolated in some small islands. But this is not something that we consider now. But this result here really holds also in our context when you have very strong disorder. And what we can show with our heat kernel estimates is that under some assumption on the graph, which is a technical assumption that the graph can be covered by a covering, any ball in the graph can be covered by a covering which is kind of regular. Then and this is an assumption that can be satisfied, for example, in any case of fractal self-similar fractals. So it's not very demanding. And if we assume in our theorem that there is a uniform heat kernel bound with assumption A and dimension strictly less than 2, then we have that very strong disorder always holds. So the polymer will always localize in a strong sense, no matter the value of beta. Now we can also go deeper in the description of the. So this is the free energy of the polymer. We can actually understand it when beta is close to 0 and get a bound on the free energy, on the decay of the free energy, which depends only on the spectral parameter here. So if you ask for this heat kernel uniform heat kernel upper bound, then the free energy description for beta close to 0 only depends on the spectral dimension. And so how we prove that? We use techniques from Lacoin that he used to prove that the simple random walk on ZD has this kind of behavior for d equal 1. And he also did it for d equal 2, but the behavior is a bit different at the critical value d equals 2. Although we think that the method he uses also should apply also to our framework. But we recover his results by just taking d is equal to 1 in that case. But the difficulty in our framework is that we don't have, so Lacan uses translation invariance properties of the polymer, and in our case we don't have it, so we have to use the uniform heat kernels bound, and the computation is a bit trickier. So let me close this presentation by mentioning some results that we obtained on the applications on the Galton-Watson trees. for the bias random walk. So consider T to be a Galton-Watson tree with offspring pk, meaning that starting from the root, the number of children you may have, the probability to have k children from the root is equal to pk. And we consider the case where the mean number of children is strictly bigger than 1. And we consider the lambda bias random walk on T, which is the following walk. So when you are on the Galton-Watson tree at the vertex x, you have a probability lambda divided by lambda plus the number of children of x, let's call it Vx, the number of children of x, to go up. And you will have 1 over lambda plus the number of children of x to go down to any of the child of the vertex x. So lambda is the bias towards the root. So the higher the lambda, the higher you push the walk up. And Lyons has shown that if lambda is strictly bigger than the mean number of children, basically you have drift up and the walk will be positive recurrent. Then if lambda is equal to m, then the walk will be null recurrent. And if lambda is strictly less than m, then the drift will be down and the walk will be transient. And what we showed is that if you assume, if you are in the transient case, so when lambda is strictly less than m, and you assume that you may have a probability of having 0 children is 0, so you don't have this probability, then almost surely on the realization of the Galton-Watson tree, the beta c will be 0. It will be positive, sorry. So in the transient case, there is a phase transition. Now, it does not simply follow from the fact that beta 2 is positive. So it's not that simple, because if you assume, for example, that P1 is positive, then you may have a large, for simple random walk, you may have a simple random walk on large, arbitrary large one-dimensional pipes, which will, as we've seen, which will make the second one blow up and have beta 2 is equal to 0. So this uses other techniques which come from Birkner to really prove directly that in this case we have beta c is positive, and we use the fact that there is a speed in this and other properties of random walk of Galton-Watson trees. Now, we also consider the case where lambda is strictly bigger than m. So in this case, the walk will be positive recurrent, and recall that if sk is positive recurrent, then beta c is always 0. This was the first element that we saw. And actually, we can ask also for beta c bar, is it also 0 or not? And Carmona, Guerrero, and Mejan have found that if sk has return times that have exponential moments, so in particular it is positive recurrence, then very strong disorder will always hold. So it will be always very much localized. But in our case, there are two cases that are a bit different. So we consider the Galton-Watson tree, and in the case where lambda is strictly bigger than m, so the drift is pushing up, the bias is pushing up, and S is positive recurrent, then if you don't have the possibility to have a number of children that is strictly bigger than lambda, so if the supremum of D such that the probability of D children is positive is strictly less than lambda, so you cannot have more children than lambda, then you will have actually exponential moments for the return times, and so you will have beta c bar that is 0 almost surely on T. But on the other hand, if you allow the probability to go to have more than D children, to have D children where D is strictly bigger than lambda, then we prove that, in fact, beta c bar will be positive. So it's an interesting case where beta c bar is 0, beta c is 0, but beta c bar is positive. For the lattice, it is actually it is actually a conjecture that the two are equal, that beta C bar is always equal to beta C. And here is an example where this can not happen. So I have maybe 1 minute to just give you the idea behind this.
Clement, we also want to have some time for questions. Stock
okay,
is starting in 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's just 1 second. Is that if you have the Galton-Watson tree, sorry, where you can have probability, you can have many children. So this is authorized. Then by the exponential growth of the tree, you will actually be able to find quite a big tree with a lot of children. And in this big tree, you will have actually drift down. You will recover the transient case, and it's possible to visit this tree at least at the exponential scale, and this will allow for Wn to be actually bigger than an exponential minus n. So let me conclude now by giving a few open questions. So the first one is, so we've seen that there is a recurrent graph for which there is a net region. So what we want to also understand is that, can you create a reversible example of that? Another one is that you already mentioned is beta C positive for supercritical percolation. And the last one is the null recurrent case of Galton-Watson trees that we have not touched in the paper, and it's not clear whether beta C should be 0 or positive. It's a bit similar problems for percolation. Okay, so thank you very much for your attention.
Speaker. Maybe you have time for one question, then further questions. Clement will take after all. Full stop, maybe. Anybody has a question? Okay, so let's take a 2-minute break while Ofer is sharing his screen.